The neuroscientist who analyzed Aaron Hernandez's brain has confirmed that he suffered the worst case ever seen in someone so young, with severe damage to regions that affect memory, impulse control and behavior. The 27-year-old former New England Patriots player killed himself in April while serving life in prison for murder. In September, Dr. Ann McKee of the CTE Center at Boston University posthumously diagnosed Hernandez with chronic traumatic encephalopathy, a football-linked disease that causes dementia and aggression. On Thursday, Dr. McKee formally presented her findings and confirmed that she had never encountered such extreme degradation in a young brain, pointing out areas of severe tissue damage and microbleeds likely caused by blows to the head. They also found a variant of the APO gene, which has been linked to increased risk of Alzheimer's, but the scientists emphasize that no gene could inflict the same damage as years of heavy impact from tackling. Dr. McKee says she could not say for certain that Hernandez's criminal and suicidal acts were a result of his severe case of CTE, nor whether other 27-year-old players could plausibly have the same pathology. But she says Hernandez suffered substantial damage to several important regions, including the frontal lobe. His attorneys have sued the NFL and football helmet maker Riddell, accusing them of failing to warn Hernandez about the dangers of football. In any individual, we can't take the pathology and explain the behavior, Dr. Ann McKee said, speaking at the landmark event at Boston's annual CTE conference. But we can say collectively, in our collective experience, that individuals with CTE and CTE of this severity have difficulty with impulse control, decision-making, inhibition or impulses or aggression, often emotional volatility and rage behavior. Dr. McKee told the conference that the only other brains they have studied with this level of damage were at least 20 years older than Hernandez. In this age group, he's clearly at the severe end of the spectrum, McKee said. There is a concern that we're seeing accelerated disease in young athletes. Whether or not that's because they're playing more aggressively, or if they're starting at younger ages, we don't know. But we are seeing ravages of this disease, in this specific example, of a young person. Hernandez was diagnosed with stage 3 out of 4, with 4 being the most severe. His brain scans reveal huge clumps of tau protein in Hernandez's frontal lobes and in the nerve cells around small blood vessels, a unique feature of CTE. These proteins, also seen in dementia, disrupts the normal functioning of the brain, triggering aggressiveness, explosiveness, impulsivity, depression, memory loss and other cognitive changes. Boston's ongoing investigation into football-linked brain injury is studying hundreds of former players' brains, including Aaron Hernandez Jr., Dave Duerson, and Andre Waters, all of whom committed suicide and had CTE. And Duerson both shot themselves in the chest with the expressed intention of donating their brains to scientists to examine them for disease. As expected, tests subsequently showed that both men and Waters, who were all over the age of 40, had CTE. Hernandez, however, was in his mid-20s with a far more severe pathology. Dr. McKee cautioned that she has not received many brains of players so young who played to such a high level as Aaron Hernandez, who started playing before the age of 8 and was regarded as one of the NFL's top tight ends. The tests showed Hernandez had early brain atrophy and large perforations in the septum pellucidum, a central membrane which is essential to control behavior. Hernandez's brain scans revealed he had a variant of the APO gene, which has been linked to neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, a similar disease to CTE. However, CTE uniquely affects certain nerve cells which Alzheimer's appears not to. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, is a degenerative brain disease that is caused by repeated hits to the head. Over time, these hard impacts result in confusion, depression, dementia, explosiveness, aggression, and suicidal thoughts. Researchers are still unclear on how CTE affects behavior, but a growing swell of studies is offering some answers. The disgraced star had a $41 million NFL contract when he was arrested at his home in June 2013 and charged with the murder of a semi-pro football player Odin Lloyd. Lloyd was the boyfriend of Hernandez's fiancée's sister. He was found dead in an industrial park on June 17, 2013, riddled with bullets. Surveillance footage showed Hernandez at the scene an hour before, then arriving at home minutes after gunshots were fired. In April 2015, Hernandez was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. While in prison, Hernandez was charged with another killing and double murder committed by a drive-by shooting. But in April this year, he was acquitted of both charges. The next day, he took his own life. His family has since filed a lawsuit against the NFL and the Patriots on behalf of Hernandez's 4-year-old daughter Avielle, claiming the club and the league knew about the connections between football and CTE long before Hernandez was drafted. From golden boy to convict, the tragic story of Aaron Hernandez. Aaron Hernandez was born into a sports dynasty, and he was a star. Growing up in Bristol, Connecticut, he excelled in football, basketball, and sprint running. But his idyllic childhood took a turn at the age of 16 in 2006 when his father, a coach who was his inspiration and best friend, died during a routine hernia surgery. Hernandez left high school in January 2007 to join the University of Florida Gators. Within months, he was involved in a fight, sucker punching a restaurant manager. Police reports said he ruptured the man's eardrum. He was also suspended for marijuana. And in his sophomore year, he was named in a police report about a club shooting, naming him as one of a few Gator players, which triggered the argument. But despite his run-ins with the law, he was incredibly skilled. Hernandez smiles from the sidelines in the fourth quarter during a game against the Houston Texans in December 10, 2012, shortly after landing his $40 million contract that meant he was able to skip his senior year to go pro in 2010. He was expected to be the first pick. Ultimately, he was left until the fourth pick, selected by the Patriots. It has since emerged that Hernandez had written a personal letter to the team asking them to draft him, a factor which was likely significant. And they weren't disappointed. In 2012, he landed a $40 million contract for his third season. But he didn't see that season through. In June 2013, Hernandez was arrested and charged with the murder of Odin, Lloyd, the boyfriend of his fiancée sister. Lloyd was a semi-pro football player. He was found dead in a park on June 17, 2013, with bullet wounds. Indicted, Hernandez is escorted into the courtroom of the Attleboro District Court for his hearing on August 22, 2013 in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. On June 28, Hernandez was detained with an arrest warrant that said he was seen with Lloyd at 2:30 a.m. on the day of his murder. Gunshots were heard at around 3:25 a.m. and at 3:29 a.m. Surveillance footage showed Hernandez arriving home in his car, which was 5 minutes from the crime scene. In April 2015, Hernandez was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. While in prison, Hernandez was charged with another killing and double murder committed by a drive-by shooting. But in April this year, he was acquitted of both charges. The next day, he took his own life and penned 3 suicide notes, including one to his fiancée Shayanna Jenkins. They were discovered in the cell where Aaron Hernandez hanged himself, leading investigators to officially declare his death a suicide. The notes were discovered next to a Bible open to John 3:16, the same verse that Hernandez had written across his forehead in marker. That verse reads, "For God so loved the world, that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life."